Hello, everybody, and welcome to the secret history living inside of your aquarium. Today, we're going to talk about two plants in particular: Monte Carlo, we'll get light on that in a moment, and dwarf baby tears. I know, what a great name, right? Baby tears. So, baby tears is a different plant, but dwarf baby tears is this here plant. And Monte Carlo, spelled this way, no S, is like this. So let's go over into the kitchen and talk about this setup. So, when you have plants like this, these are in pots. We call these pots, and they are in mineral or rock wool. That's what we call this stuff in here. And to get these ready, what you would do is you pull out any tags they have, and you can pop them out of their basket. Some plants you can leave in there, like a sword fern or something. They can hang out in there for a while, but they're going to outgrow it at some point, and you'll have a problem. Now, when you get these, and when you get Monte Carlo, you're going to see that it can grow in these trailing vines. It's almost like English ivy or something like that. And it's going to come out of the rock wool very easily, just like that. Ta-da! And if you recall, I had tissue culture versions of this, and they did not have any root system really. So what they looked like was kind of like this, without even that white piece, without these white nutrient grabbers. These are roots out here. And same with this this dwarf baby tears. It is a plant from the Caribbean island of Cuba, and this plant is a little different in that it's made up of lots of teeny tiny little stems, but you'll see the roots. It's actually got a little tap root and another little runner roots that are making it up. So you can kind of pull these out carefully. If they're loose, don't force them or you'll just bust the root off. Or you can kind of cut them off. You can kind of break this open with two hands. You can break this open, and there'll be a main bundle just like the other one. But you'll see that it's actually started to carpet within its own rock wool. You can see that it's growing sideways. So this is going to be just a quite the savage carpeting plant, if I may say so myself. It is going to carpet very well, and it is known around the world, around the hobby, as a great plant for doing so. Now, when you get these kinds of plants, a lot of times when they come in a little pot like this, or if you get them in a plastic tube and they're airtight, something like that, they will have been grown immersed, which means the roots are wet. They're in this rock wool or in a nutrients wool or soil of some sort, but they're actually growing out of the water so that they can get intense sunlight and intense nutrients to their root system. And so that's probably what these were grown like, and then they have to transfer to their underwater shape or form. And luckily with these two, they don't really transform a ton. They actually, you can get them like this, and you can put them in the tank. And since you're not really relying upon the root system like you would with other plants, I mean, there's roots here, but it's not like you're planting a bulb or a bunch of roots. You don't have to worry as much about them floating off or not taking. These guys you can actually tie on to, sticks and other things. Now they do need to eat nutrients. And if you have enough nutrients in the soil or in the water column, you can actually grow it on rocks, on sticks, you name it, you name the surface. But it will get these runner roots that are white and that just start appearing all over, start jetting out of the plant from all over the place. So that's kind of up to you what you want to do. Now, the two main differences between these plants, and I would recommend for first-time carpeting, this is what I always recommend. This is the Monte Carlo. It likes water that's fairly warm, 72 to 82, something like that, is good. It can grow in a lot of different water, but, usually fairly neutral to slightly acidic like most plants. You really don't get a lot of plants growing in super high TDS, super basic water. It's just hard on them. And naturally, plants die, decompose, and make water more acidic as all sorts of life is around them in the streams and creeks. So, once you get this stuff, you can do several things with it. With the Monte Carlo, it'll be long enough, especially in these cups, like I was saying, that you can actually take something as long as this, that's say 3 inches long or 2.5 inches long. You can cut this up, and since it's a carpeting plant, but it's really a stem plant too. You can grow it anywhere where there's these white runners. You see them off to the side, these teeny little white strands. They poke off to the side all over the place, and you can get it to take hold any of those spots. So you could take a piece like this out of here without the main root. If you weren't able to pull it out clean or whatever, you could take it. You could even cut this into 2 or 3 spots, tuck it into the soil. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done. Or lightly tie it around something with some string. And if, like I said, if you have high enough CO2, high enough light, and good nutrients in the water, it can actually get that out of the water column and grow, both these can, onto surfaces other than soil that it has nutrients, that's active. However, if you want a good, thick, lush carpet, you're going to want active substrate. You're going to want aqua soil or ADA, Amazonia or Amazonia 2 or Fluval stratum, contra, what's it called? The UNS contrasoil or aquasoil. All those kind of things work just fine. You've got a big selection online of different types you can check out, but you want to grow them on that usually. So what you want to do once you've got this cleaned up, so pretend like we've cleaned this all up, we've pulled out the rock wool. You don't want to leave this rock wool in your aquarium. Fish can eat it, and, not that I've had it ever take out a fish, but I just, it's probably not good for a fish to eat rock wool all day. But what you can do is you can just tuck it in. Now, what I did here is I put sand below the main substrate for now, and that's actually going to help me tuck it in because the roots will still run through this shallow of substrate, just like they do with a lot of plants that I've started here, dwarf hairgrass and so forth. But when you get a type of plant that's already used to the water and grown up, it's a large plant, it's not a tissue culture like the ones back here when I showed you guys the Petco tissue cultures. You can see they're not all doing so hot. The ones without roots, like I said, are not doing very well. And I kind of expected that / was worried about that. There's some Monte Carlo here that's just, it's small, it's not doing as well. Some's doing better here, but it's still not in its adult shape. It's in its like in between imagery. So when you get this stuff, it can be very dense and beautiful. And the way you get, so say the dwarf baby tears, say you want to make a carpet all along here look like the lawn. You can put this in and you want to stagger it. So you'll break this into 10 pieces or 5 pieces, and you put one here, and then you stagger one back, then one back. So you're kind of doing a zigzag pattern like a checker or chessboard would look like. And then that'll all grow together. Their roots actually put out pheromones that can sense one another, and they will form networks to share nutrients. And that's how a lot of these plants that kind of grow out and sprawl out like that, like ivies and mosses and things, they kind of like to link up with their own kind. So you plant that, and then you just let it go. Now, once it starts to grow up, and say it were this tall out of the dirt already, like a month later or a few weeks later, you're going to want to trim it. And the more you trim these plants once they've established a root column, and let's see this under the detailed light, that's an established root column right there. You can see all the white roots, some tan roots. If you had that going in the soil for like, you had this in here for a month and it's established, you can cut it all the way down to basically level with this. So it looks like it's dead. It's not going to come back almost. And it will grow back twice as thick. Now, I'm not saying that hyperbolically that it's twice as thick, because literally it is twice as thick. Every single spot that you cut, every stem on here will split into two and then continue to grow. If you let those grow up taller and then you trim it not quite at the base, but above again, above that first split, then you're cutting 4 times what you cut in the first amount. And you can scoop those out of the water, the cuttings, and you can, do something else with them. Just don't let them build up ammonia in your tank by floating around and getting stuck hidden somewhere. Unless you have goldfish or something that's going to eat them. But if you have goldfish or anybody that's real hard on plants, I would not recommend doing this. Now, this is a bit of an experiment because I might just contradict myself because I have Corydoras. Now, they don't eat a ton of plants, but they are kind of hard on plants. See, they kind of dig around and they just nuzzle around in things trying to find food. It's just what they do. They love to do it. I can't blame them. They're adorable. So this is one that you want to make sure you've got roots established. You don't want to use that tissue culture kind that I had before if you've got animals in the tank already. Now, in the long run, it's going to need a lot of light and a lot of CO2 to guarantee success. I know people who have grown it without CO2 and without high light. They've grown it with medium light and good fertilizers and just the right balance of this and that. But just for the average person, high light, high CO2, and additive ferts or root tabs, something along those lines, is what you really need. With the Monte Carlo, I've grown this in low light tanks without CO2 and without fertilizers. It will just kind of grow. Now it'll grow bigger, bushier, and the leaves will have more space between them, kind of like they do now. Whereas if I put this in a tank with CO2, as this grows out, I can literally see that the plant, like here, this is from Aquarium Co-op. I just went down to the store today. But they probably had it in a tank with some CO2 in the back room to get it used to water again as these shipments came in. But you see how tight the leaves near the end of the stem are compared to how much room there is on some of the stems. Sorry, guys. It's kind of hard to show it off clearly. But there's big gaps in between the leaves, like of maybe half a centimeter here, whereas at the ends of them, there's barely any gap, maybe a few millimeters, 2 millimeters. And that will happen if you keep trimming it and you keep the CO2 high and the light high. Now, the problem with those things, of course there's a problem with those things, is you can get algae. So that's why you want a crew of shrimp. Amano shrimp are great, of plecos, of cories, whatever it may be. But just remember, as I said, if they're too hard on things like Siamese algae eaters they'll sometimes just rip it out, and that's kind of a pain. So yet again, you can get the very small, you can do very miniature dioramas or landscapes, with this stuff, with the Cuban Dwarf baby tears. It's a very delicate, beautiful, sought-after plant, and it's getting very popular in the hobby. But you're going to need more high-tech equipment, and you're going to need to stay on top of it. As it looks like this in your soil, you're going to want to trim it again and wait for it to grow. Trim it, wait for it to grow. And, it'll get thicker and thicker and spread more and more just by the nature of what it is. Other than that, the only thing I have to say that might be helpful that I can think of is that If you're starting a tank brand new, you haven't put any fish in, you haven't even put water in, you can put the aqua soil in. You can put all of the stuff in that you're going to put in the tank, the rocks, the hardscape, and you can literally cut this up into 1,000 pieces. Well, maybe not 1,000, but like 200 pieces. You can cut it up into any area that has leaves and then stem and then leaves again. So any intersection with a pattern of leaf, stem, leaf, and then stem again. And you can literally just throw that all over. And if you put saran wrap over the tank and keep it humid in there, spray it with a spray bottle daily, or put a dish in there with a little heater in the dish, like just like a normal fish heater, it will literally carpet your entire tank without being underwater. It just needs to be in humid conditions. Then you fill the tank with water, bada bing, bada boom, you got a crazy carpeted tank that's just wonderful. So we're going to give this a go. We'll see if we can get it to carpet with these scoundrels of Corydoras in here, and with this little boost of sand to help hold those tap roots in farther, and then they'll grow back into the soil if that's what they need. But we're also treating the water with ferts. So hopefully it should go well, and we can grow some carpet all through here. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that helped clears up just a little bit about Monte Carlo versus dwarf baby tears. High tech, low tech, medium tech, no tech. You know, it just depends on what you want out of things. They're both pretty affordable. You can get them at Aquarium Co-op. You can get them at Aquatic Arts. You can get them at H2O plants. All over the place you're going to be able to find these plants. And they're really great plants, and I highly recommend that you try it out. I'd start with Monte Carlo. Remember, if you like this, if you need to help out a friend who has a question and you don't want to tell them the whole story, just send them this link. That's all you need to do. And if you stuck around this long, please subscribe. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Good night.